I'm not surprised. In fact, Ryuk, I've been waiting for you.
Manga adaptations have not been that good recently, and why is that? With a wealth of titles to choose from and a fanbase that rivals the comic book ones, manga adaptations seem to be getting Hollywood nowhere. But why? Culture is often ousted as a primary reason to the failure of manga adaptations. With a majority of manga stories focused in Japan, there are clearly going to be cultural differences. However, I call this a lazy excuse. Foreign remakes have the same problem, but some don't struggle to adapt. Martin Scorsese's The Departed and David Fincher's The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo are two remakes of foreign movies that have positive audience and critical reception, with the former winning Best Picture. Dragon Ball isn't even set in Japan, but set in a mystical other earthly world with a dog as its king, and Death Note is about a high school student with a book that can kill someone. Nothing Japanese about that. There will evidently be cultural differences when adapting a Japanese manga, but with an adaptation, you adapt what works and what doesn't, you leave out. The content of the two aforementioned mangas have a lot of story that has to be covered. Dragon Ball starts with Goku as a kid and ends with him being a grandpa, and Death Note is a tale of how Light Yagami slowly turns evil with each name he writes in the Death Note. Dragon Ball has 42 manga volumes and Death Note has 13. But is the size of the story a problem? When we look at book adaptations, with the two biggest adaptations being Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, we don't see a problem with the studio or creators adapting them into movies. There is, however, a difference. Harry Potter had 7 movies and Lord of the Rings had 3, but when just looking at the first movies, they stand on their own and they build the world and the rules that the other movies will follow. So why has the Dragon Ball and Death Note movies failed? They have not understood the content. The main theme of Death Note is ultimately what is good or evil. The heroic stance of Light Yagami wanting to rid the world of evil, but slowly turn evil himself was enthralling to watch, but with the movie, Light has a reason to kill. Not because of his lack of distaste to the world, but because they added that his mother dies. This integral added information to Light changes the whole dimension of his character. No longer is he a psychopath with a corrupt idea of good. Light is someone who attains a generic superhero backstory and has a reason to kill. When you give Light Yagami a reason to kill, his acts become reasonable, not questionable. Dragon Ball is about Son Goku's adventure with Bulma as they find the 7 Dragon Balls to grant one wish they desire, but along the way they meet new friends and new enemies as Goku learns about the world he never knew existed. Dragon Ball Evolution is about Son Goku, a teenager who can only use ki when he has a boner, fights Piccolo because of some visions, and something to do with a prophecy. You see the major problems. When it comes to adaptation to the big screen, I'm all for changing whatever is necessary to accommodate that medium, but when the core story is completely altered to the point of no longer a resemblance of the source material, then Hollywood is doing it wrong. Is manga and anime too weird? Taking examples of Dragon Ball, then yes, maybe Dragon Ball is too weird to be adapted into a live action movie with flying clouds and perverted old men. But Death Note isn't weird, it's clever, and it has themes that can be translated into live action. With Death Note, the manga and anime are very grounded in reality. The thriller aspect in the right hands has the ability to be turned into something like Seven. Granted, I don't see this in the movie.
Potato chip and eat it.
There is also the style of the art and how to replicate that for live action. Dragon Ball and Death Note are very distinct, and that's part of their charm. So taking that away is taking away part of what makes them enjoyable. It is why we don't get straight live action adaptation of comic books and instead have animated movies, because the style in which they are copying from is easily transferable to animation. Batman v Superman doesn't stylistically look like The Dark Knight Returns for the whole movie, but the short glimpses, when it does, adds a little connection with the fans. The reason comic book movies are very successful is because of creators' perspective of the characters. Comic book characters have got a sole creator just like manga authors, but the key difference with comic books, especially the superhero genre, is many other writers write with their own interpretation of that character. In movie terms, Tim Burton's Batman is very different from Christopher Nolan's Batman. With a long history and many different writers, new backstories added while different motives are changing. But with manga titles, the author who creates it is the only one who writes the entire series until the end. No one else picks it up from that point. There is only one defined version of Light Yagami and Son Goku, but there are hundreds of different versions of Batman, meaning a movie about Batman is more widely accepted and audience go with more open-mindedness than a movie based on a manga. Death Note strays from what makes Light Yagami light, and that's the same with Goku and Dragon Ball Evolution. Fans of Dragon Ball only have one interpretation of Goku, and even with fan mangas or games of Dragon Ball, they all follow Akira Toriyama's view of Goku. In the end, the manga adaptations will need to find the right balance between faithful adaptation and bringing new ideas. I believe it can be done. Just like the comic book movies, all we need is a great director to take on a great manga title.